I am happy to share with everyone my project report from the dissertation chapter 1 assignment from this semester for EDAC 780 with Professor Bo Chang for the fall of 2025. Here I just have an overview of the contents of this video. We will start with the background of the topic that I chose and work through the problem statement and the gap in the literature and go all the way through until my fieldwork. And at the end, I will share some major takeaways and lessons learned from this project this semester. The federal definition of family literacy draws from the National Center for Families Learning definition of family literacy, which includes 4 components: adult education, child education, parent education, and parent and child together time, or PAC time. A lot of the earlier programs in family literacy use what was considered a deficit approach, which was attempting to solve something that the parents didn't know or teach them. It referred back to a lot of like the Paulo Freire's banking concept of education, where we were just seeing families and trying to feed them what they might need to know, what we as educators thought they needed to know in order to be successful. And then Auerbach 1989 is a really big piece of literature in terms of moving us toward the more asset-based approach, because this author was asking for researchers and practitioners to begin looking at multicultural approaches to family literacy that would build on the funds of knowledge of parents. As I mentioned, the earlier models used that parental training approach and a deficit mindset. And the result was that a lot of multicultural families were excluded from the work and from the planning process. And in contrast, there are a lot of contemporary programs that use the funds of knowledge approach, which really draws on parents' cultural background, their knowledge, and allows them to be part of the planning process. Now we have our problem statement, or the problem in practice. As I mentioned, we had this deficit approach, which has moved to an asset-based approach using caregivers' information, their knowledge, and utilizing them as supporters in building the curriculum. However, we still don't know as much about how programs can implement activities that honor caregivers' dual roles and identities as learners and teachers. This is the next step in in an asset-based approach. And so by better understanding and addressing this dual identity, teachers in adult education can enhance parent engagement, combat attrition rates, and increase adult and child outcomes, which are all goals of family literacy programs. When looking at the literature, there were a few things that I found. First, joint reading programs are highly researched in terms of family literacy in comparison to other 4-component family literacy models. Next, a study conducted in 2009 by Nichols explored caregivers' multiple identities, but it was not looking at their roles as parents and teachers or as teachers and learners. It was looking at their roles or identities as parents and educators. And then lastly, there was an ethnographic study in 2024 that looked at 3 Burmese mothers, capturing how they position themselves within their children's literacy practices, but it also looked at how their goals are related to their children's goals in terms of adult education and language learning. So with this, we arrive at the gap in the literature, where we know that deficit-based approaches to family literacy are harmful. However, we need to know how we can better support parents' dual identities as students and teachers in order to have a more asset-based approach in our practice. Therefore, the purpose statement is that the purpose of this multiple case study is to understand how 4-component family literacy programs in the United States design and implement activities that recognize caregivers' dual roles as learners and teachers. And these 2 pictures right here are from my family literacy class. I won't directly read the slide, but these are my research questions. An overview is that I am trying to see how 4-component family literacy programs in the United States design and implement activities that recognize caregivers' identities as teachers. And then also later understanding what contextual factors impact instructors and administrators' implementation of these identity honoring practices. This study is significant for 2 reasons. First, it has a contribution to theory. We know that family literacy research is moving toward these asset-based approaches, and this study would extend the asset-based and funds of knowledge theories in relation to program design. Next, we have the connection to practice. This study is significant because it will help program administrators and educators understand how they can design activities that help parents explore their dual identities as learners and teachers. One of the most exciting aspects of this project was conducting exploratory fieldwork in Mesa Public Schools in Arizona. I had the ability to visit Mesa Public Schools and see 4 of their programs that utilize the 4-component family literacy model. I found 4 main points that I drew out. First is that this program had a heavier focus on caregivers' roles as teachers than as learners. Next, I saw some activities that recognize parents' roles, but nothing that recognized their identities, and these are 2 distinct topics. Next, I saw that while shared curriculum is supporting new educators because they use the Ventures, books, and Ellie, an online curriculum support, it could restrict the creativity for instructors who want to implement identity honoring practices. And lastly, the classes demonstrated strength and community, evidenced by their lively discussions, comfort in group work, and inclusive classroom artifacts. I had a few major takeaways from this course and writing the experience of writing the dissertation chapter 1. First, I had a better understanding of the dissertation genre, which I knew just about nothing about before because this is just my 3rd semester in the program. Next, it helped me understand the intense process of narrowing your topic, and I feel more prepared to narrow and select my topic now that I've had this experience. And lastly, I value the role now of exploratory fieldwork prior to IRB just because I am better able to understand the study's trajectory and how it can change once I see my question in action. Lastly, I have 3 pages of references. This is not representative of all of the references that I include in my paper. However, it is everything that I cited in this presentation. Thank you for watching. I'm super happy that I was able to share my work with you.